Hello, dear students. Welcome to the class on metallics. In this class, let's learn about how iron is distributed and what are the important functions of iron and what are the various preparations which are available and where they are indicated. So, the specific learning objectives for today's session is at the end of this class, you should be able to describe the iron distribution, absorption, transport, utilization, storage, and excretion. And also, you should be able to explain the iron preparations and doses available and explain the uses of iron preparations, and you should be able to describe the management of acute iron poisoning. So, coming to the emetenics, these are the agents which are helping in formation of blood. So, therefore, it is useful in the treatment of anemia. So, in case of anemia, there will be imbalance. The balance will be disturbed between the production and the destruction of the RBCs. So, what are the various causes for this imbalance? It may be due to the blood loss, it may be due to the impaired red cell formation due to deficiency of essential factors like iron, vitamin B12, folic acid. And also, it can be due to bone marrow depression and erythropoietin deficiency. And anemia can also occur due to the increased destruction of the RBCs. So, this is seen in case of hemolytic anemia. So, coming to the distribution of iron in the body, so the adult has 2.5 to 5 grams of iron, average of 3.5 grams, and men have more iron compared to the women, and various parts of the body has got different distribution of iron, like hemoglobin constitute 62% of the body iron, and iron stores like ferritin and hemocytin constitute 25%, and myoglobin constitutes 7%, and parenchymal iron constitutes 6%. So coming to the hemoglobin, which is a protoporphyrin, so each molecule of hemoglobin contains 4 iron containing heme residue. So each of them contains 0.33% of iron. So this point you should remember. So the loss of 100 ml of blood containing 15 gram of hemoglobin will lead to loss of 50 milligram of elemental iron. So to rise the HB level of blood by 1 gram per deciliter, you need to administer 200 milligram of elemental iron. So basically where this iron is stored? Iron is stored only in ferric form in combination with the large protein that is called as apoferritin. So this ferritin can also get saturated. It can hold up to 30% of the iron by weight. And what are the important storage sites of iron? The storage sites are in the reticuloendothelial cells like spleen and liver, and they also help in the enzymatic activity in the parenchymal with the help of parenchymal iron. So many enzymatic activity are functioning due to the iron as a cofactor. So the primary reflection of iron deficiency will be seen in the blood. So there will be deformation of the RBCs, and the severe deficiency can affect every cells in the body. So what are the daily requirements for adult male? It is 0.5 to 1 milligram. In female it is 1 to 2 milligram in menstruating woman, and in infants it is 60 microgram per kg, and children it is 25 microgram per kg. So in pregnancy the daily requirement rate increases to 3 to 5 milligrams. It is mainly due to the increased requirement which needs iron for a growing fetus, as well as iron is required more in the later 2 stages to trimester. So what are the dietary source of iron? So the dietary sources which are rich in iron are liver, egg yolk, oyster, dry beans, dry fruits, wheat germ, yeast, and dietary sources which are medium are meat, chicken, fish, spinach, banana, apple, and the poor source of iron are milk and root vegetables. So coming to the iron absorption, so daily the dietary intake of our food contains 10 to 20 milligram of iron will be absorbed mainly in the upper part of the intestine. They are available in the form of two forms, heme as well as the inorganic iron. So the absorption of heme iron is better. So up to 35% of the heme iron will be absorbed compared to the inorganic iron. But this heme iron is available in small fraction in the dietary iron. The major part of the dietary iron is made up of inorganic iron. So this inorganic iron will be in the ferric form, which gets dissociated from a complex and it will be reduced to ferrous form. It will be reduced to ferrous form. So it is the ferrous form which will be easily absorbed in the intestine. So there are two separate iron transporter systems which are involved in the absorption of the iron through the intestinal mucosal cells. So there are luminal membrane where it contains divalent metal transporter 1 which carries ferrous ion into the mucosal cell. Along with this, the iron which is released from heme is also transported across the basolateral membrane by one more transporter that is called as transporter ferroportin. So the iron transporters, so these above two iron transporters are mainly regulated based on the body requirement, based on the body iron requirement. So the absorption of heme iron. So as I said in the last slide, there are two forms, heme iron and inorganic iron. So this heme iron is largely independent of the presence of food for their absorption. Whereas the inorganic iron is affected by presence of food as well as other factors. So let's know what are the different factors which will affect its absorption. So what are the factors which facilitate the iron absorption? We are talking with respect to inorganic iron. So the acid can favor dissolution and it will cause reduction of ferric iron to ferrous form, thereby increases the absorption of iron. And also the reducing substance like ascorbic acid, amino acid which are containing SH radicals, and these agents also reduces the ferric iron into ferrous form, absorbable form. And the meat also increases the levels of HCl, hydrochloric acid, thereby they provide heme iron. So what are the factors which will decrease or impede the iron absorption? Like presence of alkali. For the absorption of iron, iron requires acidic pH. So alkali pH will render iron insoluble. So thereby it opposes its reduction. So there won't be any ferrous form, which is a absorbable form. Phosphate which are rich in egg yolk, phytates in maize and wheat, and the drug, the antimicrobial agent, you should remember this is very important. The tetracycline will also decrease the iron absorption because of the formation of insoluble complexes. And also the presence of other food in the stomach will interfere with the absorption of iron. So what do you understand by mucosal block? So this mucosal block means it is a phenomenon where the iron, it prevents the excess iron entry into the body. So the iron, once it reaches the mucosal cell, inside the mucosal cell, either it will be transported to plasma from the mucosal cell or it get oxidized to ferric form and get complex with apoferritin to form ferritin. So these ferritin which is formed, generally it will be stored inside the mucosal cells and it will be automatically shed off after 2 to 4 days. because the lifespan of ferritin is 2 to 4 days. This is called as ferritin curtain. So the iron status of the body as well as erythropoietic activity is dependent on two processes. One is the hematopoietic transcription factors. So the iron will be observed at larger percentage if there is iron deficiency, and if the body iron is low or if the erythropoiesis is occurring briskly, either the ferritin will not be formed at all, or the formed ferritin which is present in the body, it will get dissociated very soon. So thereby there will be release of iron which will be utilized for synthesis of heme. So, so coming to the transport, utilization, storage and excretion of iron. So the free form of iron is very toxic in nature. So these free form of iron in the plasma, enzymatically it gets converted to the ferric form and gets complexed with the glycoprotein, that is transferrin. So the iron in the blood, it will circulates in the plasma by binding to the transferrin. So total plasma iron content is recycled about 10 times every day. So the turnover of iron is 10 milligram per day. So this is very important. The iron is transported inside erythropoietic cells as well as other cells by attaching to the transferrin, and this transferrin will be attaching to a specific membrane bound glycoprotein that functions as a transferrin receptor. So the complex which is formed, it will be engulfed by a receptor mediated endocytosis. So the iron dissociates from this complex at acidic pH, which is in the intracellular vesicles. Thereby the released iron, it will be utilized for hemoglobin synthesis as well as the other functions in the body. The transferrin and transferrin receptors will be returned to the cell surface to carry out the fresh load. So what happens in case of iron deficiency or hemolytic status? In the hemolytic status, there will be brisk erythropoiesis will be seen in the erythropoietic cells, where there will be increased expression of transferrin receptors. So once after they enter the storage cells through the transferrin receptor, the iron will be stored in the reticuloendothelium cells like liver, spleen, bone marrow, hepatocytes and myocytes as ferritin and hemosiderin. So remember the apoferritin synthesis. Apoferritin synthesis is mainly regulated by iron status in the body. If the apoferritin levels are low, there is an iron regulating element which is present on the mRNA. It will be blocked. So therefore transcription of apoferritin does not occur, while there will be more transferrin will be produced. So more apoferritin is synthesized in such case to trap iron when iron stores are rich. So whenever there is iron stores are rich, the more apoferritin which is synthesized in the body will be helping in trapping the iron. So thereby it prevents the iron overload. So the plasma iron derived from destruction of old RBCs as well as the iron stores as well as the iron which is derived from the intestinal absorption will form a common pool which will be available for erythropoiesis and also for the other cells as well as storage purpose. So what is the daily excretion of iron? In adult male it is 0.5 to 1 milligram. So it will be excreted through exfoliated gastrointestinal mucosal cells through some of the RBCs, and in the bile will be lost in feces and through desquamated skin as well, and in urine as well as sweat. In the menstruating woman, so the monthly menstrual loss of iron will be around 0.5 to 1 milligram per day, and the excess iron will be, this is very important, the excess iron will be required during pregnancy because of the expansion of the RBC mass, and also the excess iron is required to transfer to the fetus, and also there will be loss of iron during delivery. So it makes up to requirement of 700 milligrams in the last 2 trimester. So coming to the preparations and dose of oral iron. So the preferred route of iron administration is through oral route. So there is it will be available in the form of dissociable ferrous salts, which are inexpensive in nature, which contains high iron content, and they are better absorbed than the ferric salt, especially at the higher doses. So what are the most important side effects you can encounter with oral iron preparations? The first thing you should remember is it causes lot of gastric irritation as well as constipation due to the astringent effect. So coming to the different various oral preparations, oral iron preparations available, you have ferrous sulfate, which is a hydrated salt, contains 20% of the iron, and dried salt 32% of the iron. It is the cheapest form of the iron preparation, but it has got disadvantage like it produces metallic taste in the mouth. Next form is the ferrous gluconate, which contains 12% of the iron. There is ferrous fumarate, which contains 33% of the iron. It is less water soluble, but it is tasteless in nature. There is also a colloidal ferric hydroxide, which contains the highest percentage of iron, that is 50% of the iron. There is one more form, that is carbonyl iron, which is a high purity metallic iron, and it will be made up of very fine powder form. The particle size will be less than 5 micron, and the decomposition of iron pentacarbonyl is a highly toxic compound and mainly absorbed from the intestine for a longer period of time, and the gastric tolerance in a patient is better, and bioavailability is about 3/4 of that of the ferrous sulfate. So these are the other newer oral iron preparations like ferrous succinate, iron choline citrate, iron calcium complex, ferric ammonium citrate, ferrous aminoate, ferric glycerophosphate, and ferric hydroxy polymaltose. So what are the advantage over the other oral iron preparations when compared to this newer preparations? So the newer preparations have got better absorption rate, they cause less bowel upset, like they have lesser gastric irritation, they contains low iron content, but the disadvantage is they are more expensive in nature. So whenever you are calculating the dose, so the iron compound per dose unit should be taken into consideration. So what consideration you will make while choosing the dose? So you should be choosing the elemental iron, not the quantity of the iron compound. So you should see for the content of the elemental iron. So coming to the sustained release preparations, they are more expensive and they are not rational for daily usage, because since it is a sustained release, basically the iron absorption takes place, majority of the iron will be absorbed in the upper part of the intestine, that is in the duodenum. But when you give a sustained release preparation, they're going to increase the duration of action, but iron absorption will be decreased, because these sustained release preparations will be absorbed more at the ileum, down the intestinal tract. So the bioavailability of iron is good, but it varies with respect to the individual. So there are liquid formulations which are available. The disadvantage of liquid formulation is it can stain the teeth. So it can be avoided by putting the liquid on the back of tongue and swallowed. And when come to the satisfactory or patient complaints, the patient complaints is not satisfactory with liquid formulations. So coming to the therapeutic dose, the total of 200 milligram of elemental iron will be used as a therapeutic dose. In infants and children, it will be 3 to 5 milligram per kg, and it will be a daily dose which will be divided into 3 doses. So thereby it can produce maximal hematopoietic response. Prophylactically, you can use 30 milligram of elemental iron daily. So these drugs will be absorbed better in the empty stomach, but when you give it in an empty stomach, the main concern is the side effect like gastric irritation. So some of the doctors are prescribing iron preparations uh, after the meal. So the large dose will be given after the meal, or some of the doctors are practicing like small doses are given in between meals. So coming to the adverse effects of oral iron preparations, mainly as I said, it produces gastric irritation. So there will be epigastric pain, heartburn, nausea, vomiting, bloating, staining of teeth, metallic taste, and colic, abdominal cramps. So tolerance to the oral iron preparation can be improved by initiating the therapy at very low dose, and depending upon the response, you gradually increase the dose so that patient will not experience this side effect. So constipation is more common because of their astringent action than the diarrhea. Diarrhea can also be produced by iron because of their irritant nature, but constipation is more common. It is mainly due to the alteration in the intestinal flora. So coming to the parenteral iron preparations. So when are these iron preparations, parenteral iron preparations are indicated? Only when the oral iron preparations are not tolerated because of the bowel upset, that is due to the gastric irritation, or if there is a failure to the absorption of oral iron in case of malabsorptions like inflammatory bowel disease, chronic inflammation like rheumatoid arthritis, and also due to the non-compliance to the oral iron preparations, and also due to the severe deficiency due to the chronic bleeding. And also in case of chronic kidney disease, you may need to use parenteral iron along with erythropoietin. So what are the, how will you calculate the total iron requirement when you are giving a parenteral iron therapy? So the iron requirement will be calculated, which also includes the replenishment of the storage sites, 4.4 into body weight in kg and hemoglobin deficit in grams per deciliter. So this is the formula which is used to calculate the dose of parenteral iron. So when you see the oral preparations, these oral preparations have ionized salt. This cannot be injected. The reason being these ionized salts are having strong protein which will lead to precipitation, and also these free iron in the plasma are very toxic in nature. So there are parenteral iron preparations. What are those parenteral iron preparations? You have iron dextran, mainly 4 iron parenteral iron preparations: iron dextran, ferrous sucrose, ferric carboxymaltose, iron isomaltoside 1000. So these iron isomaltoside 1000 is is having less risk, and also they have ease of administration compared to other parenteral iron preparations. So coming to the individual parenteral iron preparations, these iron dextran is a high molecular weight colloidal solution which is made up of 50 milligram of elemental iron per ml. So it is the only iron preparation which can be administered through both IM as well as IV route. Through the IM route, the drugs will be absorbed through lymphatic, then it will be rapidly absorbed into the reticuloendothelial cells where the iron get dissociate, and the iron released will be available for heme synthesis. So whenever you inject this iron dextran, the 10 to 30% of the injected iron preparations will be locally bound to the protein and it will be not available for the heme synthesis. So what you have to do is whenever you are calculating the iron dose for the parenteral iron dose, you have to add 25% extra to the calculated dose, keeping in mind that 10 to 30% of the drug will be bound locally. And it is not excreted either through urine or bile. This is very important. The iron dextran is antigenic in nature. So whichever the drug which shows antigenic property or immunogenic property, they are more prone for anaphylactic reaction compared to the other newer preparations. So coming to the intramuscular, it is given deeply in the gluteal region. There is one specific uh, technique which is used to administer iron preparation, that is Z-tract technique. It is Z-tract technique. The reason for using this technique is to avoid staining of the skin. So it prevents the pigmentation of the skin. So iron dextran is injected 2 ml daily, or it can be given alternative day, or you can give 5 ml each side on the same day. So higher dose of these iron dextran can cause pain at the local site. It can be given through intravenous, where you will be giving 2 ml which contains 100 milligram of iron is injected per day taking 10 minutes, or it can be diluted with 500 ml of glucose or saline solution and it can be infused over 6 to 8 hours. So if you notice any giddiness, paresthesia or tightness in the chest, you have to immediately terminate the administration of these drugs. So what are the adverse effects when you give the parenteral iron through IM injection? So it can cause local pain at the site of injection. It can lead to pigmentation of the skin. So the use of Z-tract technique can avoid the pigmentation of the skin. It can cause sterile abscess. It can cause systemic side effects like fever, headache, joint pain, flushing, palpitation, chest pain, dyspnea, lymph node enlargement. And also those drugs which are antigenic in nature can produce anaphylactic reaction leading to collapse and death, which is very rare. Coming to the next preparation, that is ferrous sucrose. It's a newer formulation. It is also a higher molecular weight complex where iron hydroxide is complexed with the sucrose. It is injected through IV route. Again, the same process. It will be rapidly taken by the reticuloendothelial cells, and where the iron will get dissociated from the complex and the released iron will be utilized for heme synthesis. It's one of the safer drug when compared to the iron dextran because it produces less anaphylactoid reaction. They are less antigenic in nature. And also the dose of 100 milligram, maximum of 200 milligram can be injected IV taking 5 minutes once daily to once weekly. Either you can go for once daily or you can choose once weekly regimen. So this is very important with respect to the ferrous sucrose. These solutions of ferrous sucrose are highly alkaline in nature. Because of their alkalinity, they cannot be used either through IM or subcutaneous route because of the risk of precipitation. And they are very low risk of causing hypersensitivity reaction. And they are particularly indicated in case of anemia in kidney disease, but some of the patients have experienced the renal damage with ferrous sucrose. So you have to take precautions while using ferrous sucrose in case of anemia due to any kidney disease. And one more thing you should keep in mind while using ferrous sucrose is oral iron should not be given concurrently or till 5 days after last injection of ferrous sulfate. Coming to the one more preparation, that is ferric carboxy maltose. It is a ferric hydroxide core which is stabilized by carbohydrate shell. It is one of the rapidly absorbed drug. So it will be, once you give ferric carboxy maltose, it will be rapidly taken up into the reticuloendothelial cells, primarily in the bone marrow, followed by liver and spleen. It will be injected through intravenous route, 100 milligram intravenous route injection, or it can be given up to 1000 milligram. So you should dilute with 100 ml of saline when you are giving 1000 milligram, not with the glucose solution, and it can be infused intravenously taking 15 minutes or more. And it should not be given through intramuscular route because of the risk of precipitation, and it rapidly increases the hemoglobin level in anemic patient, and also it helps in replenishing the lost iron stores. And acute reaction is very low because of their low immunogenic reaction, and it can cause pain and rashes at the site of injection. The anaphylaxis reactions are very rare. So in some times it can cause mild abdominal pain, nausea and headache, and infrequently it has caused hypotension, flushing and chest pain. And one more thing you have to remember is, because of the lack of safety data, they are not recommended to use in children below 14 years of age. Coming to the last preparation, that is iron isomaltoside 1000. It is a newer parenteral iron preparation which can be given through intravenous route. Here the iron is bound tightly in the matrix of isomaltose 1000. This 1000 refers to the molecular weight. It is a oligosaccharide with a molecular weight of 1000. Rapidly it will be taken into the reticuloendothelial cells, thereby following which there will be slow release of iron which will be used for erythropoiesis. So, and also one more advantage of this drug is they will be releasing very little liable iron which are responsible for causing toxicity, and it can be given at high single dose, and it can be used for in case of full iron deficient, where it can be corrected by giving single short period IV infusion. So the advantage of these preparation is these are more convenient, cost saving and avoids multiple exposure to the intravenous injections. Alternatively, you can also give 100 to 200 milligram IV which can be injected over 5 to 10 minutes daily. The T-off, it is longer acting drug with a T-off of 20 to 32 hours. Only 1% is excreted through the urine. So this iron isomaltoside as well as ferric carboxy maltoside are the safest IV parenteral iron preparations which are available. So what are the uses of this oral or parenteral iron preparation? So basically they are used in treating iron deficiency anemia as well as megaloblastic anemia. So in iron deficiency anemia is mainly caused due to the causes like hookworm infestation, chronic bleed from GIT, either due to ulcer or chronic bowel disease, hookworm infestation, and also it can be due to malaria or chronic inflammatory diseases, where you have to prefer oral route of iron administration, and IV route has to be reserved for the special situation. So while giving the oral preparation, you have to see for the optimum response to the iron therapy, like there should be rise in hemoglobin level by 0.5 to 1 gram per DL per week, and usually it takes 1 to 3 months depending upon the severity of the anemia to return to the normal HB levels, and it will take almost 2 to 3 months or more to replenish the iron stores. And prophylactically, the iron absorption has got ceiling effect, where daily it can absorb approximately 3 milligram per day. But in case of menstruating women, in case of pregnant women as well as infancy, and in case of chronic illness, menorrhagia or conditions like after acute blood loss, you may require to give iron supplementation where they cannot gain the iron from their daily dietary requirements. In such case, you have to give a supplemental iron in the form of prophylactically. So the second use is megaloblastic anemia. So here hemopoiesis is induced mainly by vitamin B12. It is vitamin B12 or folate therapy. When you are using vitamin B12 and folate therapy, the anemia may get improved. But if there is iron deficiency anemia, it will be masked. So what you can do is, here in the iron deficiency anemia, in case of megaloblastic anemia, you have to also go for evaluation of the iron status. Because of the iron deficiency anemia, you will not notice the iron deficiency features because of vitamin B12 and folate therapy. So coming to the acute iron poisoning, so it is more common in case of infants and children. So 10 to 20 iron tablets are equivalent of liquid preparations like more than 60 milligram of iron per kg may cause serious toxicity. It is very rare in case of adult. So what will be the manifestations of acute iron poisoning? It can lead to vomiting, abdominal pain, hematemesis, diarrhea, lethargy, cyanosis, dehydration, acidosis, convulsion. Finally, it can lead to shock and cardiovascular collapse, and finally death. So there are some pathological lesions which will be occurring in the gut, like it can cause hemorrhage and inflammation in the gut, finally leading to the necrotizing enteritis, leading to hepatic necrosis and brain damage. So how do you treat acute iron poisoning? So you need to prevent the further absorption of iron from the gut by inducing vomiting or by giving a gastric lavage with the help of sodium bicarbonate. So you'll be making the iron insoluble. Or you can give egg yolk or milk orally, which will form a complex, thereby it prevents the absorption. It makes the iron insoluble. So activated charcoal does not absorb the iron. So activated charcoal have no role in the acute iron poisoning. So and also you can also remove the iron which is already absorbed. So you can use desferrioxamine, which is a iron chelating agent, which is a drug of choice. It is injected IM, preferably 0.5 to 1 gram, repeated 4 to 12 hourly as required. Or if there is a shock, you can go for intravenous administration. So maximum you can give 75 milligram per kg in a day till the serum iron falls below 300 micrograms per DL. Alternatively, you can use TTPA or calcium meditate, but remember, BAL is contraindicated. That is, British anti-lewisite is contraindicated because the iron chelate which is formed after giving British anti-lewisite will also be toxic in nature. Apart from this, you should also take care of the fluid and electrolyte imbalance, and also you should be treating the acidosis, and also you can give diazepam if there is a convulsion. So coming to the take home message from today's session. So iron is mainly indicated in iron deficiency anemia as well as megaloblastic anemia. So basically when you get a choice for choosing oral as well as parenteral preparations, so the oral preparations are preferred over iron preparations. So when you compare the rate of hemoglobin synthesis with respect to both oral as well as the intravenous route, there is no much difference. But when you give a parenteral iron preparations, initially for 2 to 3 weeks, there will be rapid increase in the hemoglobin synthesis. But even the oral preparations can take care of this after 2 to 3 weeks. So the iron preparation, especially the parenteral iron preparations are preferred only when the oral preparations are non-compliant due to the GI side effects. And also you should remember tetracycline inhibits oral iron absorption. And also the acidic pH as well as ascorbic acid and the amino acid containing SH radical will increase the oral iron absorption. And oral iron preparations, the most common side effect is gastric irritation and constipation. And the iron dextron is antigenic in nature. That's why they're more prone for anaphylactic reaction. The safest IV iron preparations available is ferric carboxymaltose and iron isomaltoside 1000. And in case of acute iron poisoning, is main commonly seen in case of infants and children's. And acute iron poisoning, you can use desferrioxamine, which is a iron chelating agent, and it's also a drug of choice for acute iron poisoning. So coming to the few MCQs. So indications for intramuscular iron. The option is pregnancy, postpartum period, emergency surgery, oral iron intolerance. As I said, so indications for intramuscular, that is parenteral iron preparation, is intolerance to oral iron preparation. The option D is correct. So coming to the second, what is the formula for parenteral iron therapy? For calculating the total iron requirement, the formula is, which is the correct option, that is option A, 4.4 into body weight per kg into hemoglobin deficit. So coming to the third MCQ, rate of iron uptake is regulated by which one of the following? So mucosal cell, iron stores, route of administration, preparation of administered dose, as well as age of patient. So what will be the correct answer? The rate is mainly regulated by the mucosal cell iron stores. So coming to the fourth MCQ, which one of the following is ineffective in acute iron toxicity? Desferoxamine is helpful, all irrigation gastric lavage is helpful, deferoxi is also a iron chelating agent. The only thing which is contraindicated is a British anti-lewisite because the chelate which is formed is also toxic in nature. Iron is most commonly absorbed from which part of the intestine? Mainly it is to the duodenum and upper jejunum. Whereas ileum, there will be absorption of the folic acid, and also in the jejunum there will be absorption of vitamin B12. Which of the following is a oral iron preparation? So the correct answer will be ferrous sulfate is the oral iron preparation, whereas rest all are parenteral iron preparation. So seventh MCQ, which is the technique employed to reduce the risk of skin staining while injecting iron preparation? Your answer should be Z-Track technique. So which of the following is disadvantage of liquid iron preparation? Pain, anaphylactic reaction, teeth staining, rash. The main disadvantage of liquid iron preparations are it causes staining of the teeth. Which of the following is the indication for iron therapy supplementation? Urticaria? No. Pregnancy? Yes. It is the indication where we'll be using a supplemental iron therapy. So the option B is correct. So coming to the 10th MCQ, which of the following interferes with the oral iron absorption? So ascorbic acid, amino acid with SH radicals, and meat which increase HCl level will increase the absorption, whereas wheat, it will reduces the absorption because of their phytates. So these are the specific learning objectives you have learned in today's class. Hope you have understood these specific learning objectives. Thank you.